I am Megan and welcome to Battle Royale with Cheese, the website you can get all of your TV and film news reviews and trailers. And finally, I have finished Ironheart, the last Marvel TV show. I apologise it's taken a few weeks, there has been other new releases come out, and at the moment, until it gets cooler weather-wise, especially in this room, I'm only going to be doing mostly one video a week. So yeah, because it's too hot to record in here otherwise. So yeah, I apologise that it's taken a while, but I have watched the last 3 episodes of Ironheart. Before we get into this, I am just going to say, because this is a few weeks old, and I'm pretty sure I'm the only one that was watching it and is watching this show, I am just going to do spoilers. So if you haven't watched this show yet and you want to, go watch the show, come back, because I'm not putting a spoiler warning or anything, I'm just going to say everything, whether it's a spoiler or not. So I think how I'm going to do this is I'm going to go character by character. I know with the last review I did, which was episodes 1 to 3, I did it per episode, but I think for this and what the last half does, I think it's going to be easier for me to go through each character. So I'm going to start off with Joe, who is Ezekiel Stan, aka the son of Obadiah Stan from Iron Man 1, as Jeff Bridges' character. This was revealed in episode 3, and this episode essentially starts with him getting arrested for terrorism and having an illegal weapons armory. And while in jail, he gets a visit from Parker, aka the Hood, and is told, "I can bail you out, but you have to join my team." He then agrees to it because he doesn't have any other choice, and he gets given a few more biometal enhancements, as well as the ones that are in his body already, and he gets an upgrade. Problem is, there's a catch to this. He finds out the bio enhancements that he's been given are being controlled by Parker. So essentially his movements are controlled by Parker. And I really liked Joe as a character, or Ezekiel. I really liked Ezekiel. I thought he was a really interesting character and a really sympathetic one. His personality does change a bit in this, but it makes sense as to why, especially towards Riri Williams. It's her fault that he's ended up in this. He even says, she goes to visit him in jail, and he even says, I didn't want to end up like my father, and I already told you that, but here I am. I helped you, and this is where I've ended up. I didn't want to do it, but you're a manipulator and you're a liar, which we already know from past episodes. So his dislike towards Riri does make sense, but I still kind of like him because once he learns of this catch that, oh, you're now being controlled by Parker, you don't really have a choice, he regrets it immediately. You can tell he regrets it immediately. It does make for some interesting fight scenes though as well, because while his movements are controlled, his thoughts aren't. So there's a couple of fight scenes where he's fighting Riri and a couple of other people, but he's throwing punches and at the same time going, "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do that, it's not me who's doing this," which I thought was really interesting, funny at times, but yeah, it's just you can tell that Joe is still in there. He has that regret immediately. And in his first fight with Riri, he does actually destroy her iron suit, and she has to make a new one. But his powers are really cool because he has these enhancements. He now has electrical powers. There's lightning bolts coming from his fingers, which are really cool. I thought that was really well done, and they looked incredible, visually. I wish that had been utilised more though, especially in their fights. There's a couple of fights that Ezekiel and Riri share. So Parker is the next one I'm going to talk about, and we finally get to know his backstory, how he got the red hood, how he got all those red veiny scars basically covering his body, and they do grow more and more and more. But we get to learn now how that happened. And I forgot to mention at the end of episode 3, there is a demonic figure that basically shows him that, your right-hand man / best friend, John, was killed by Ironheart, which did happen at the end of episode 3. And that particular figure is a character called Mephisto, which from what I remember, I think that was rumoured to be in the Captain Marvel film years ago. From what I remember, it was rumoured to be in one of the previous Marvel films and never was. So this has kind of been a long time coming. I can't help but still feel a bit sympathetic towards Parker as well. He had a very simple goal. He just wanted to be rich because he came from a not nice background. He basically got thrown out of the house by his father at 12 and left to fend for himself. So it does make sense to why he wants to be rich and, you know, have all this wealth. Even if it is a big trope, it does actually make sense. There's enough motivation there for Parker to make this deal with Mephisto. But this also confirms, in an earlier episode, one of the team members, Clown, when she one episode went prancing around in the red cloak and then started saying like, oh, I've heard, you know, I've seen like the scars on his body and I've heard rumours, oh, he made a deal with the devil. So there was hints to that already. And yeah, that is the case. So yeah, he made a deal with Mephisto, played by Sacha Baron Cohen. But I thought this was really interesting, and yeah, I still have some... I think they gave him enough motivation to make him a sympathetic character, but you also know that he's not a good person. Like, his actions have led him down this dark path. And he's kind of one of those... If you remember, like, Vulture from Spider-Man, Homecoming, and like Michael B. Jordan's character from Black Panther, he feels like kind of one of those kind of villains. It's like, yeah, I kind of sympathise with you, but what you're doing isn't good. But because Parker, at the beginning of episode 4, knows that Riri killed John, whether by accident or not, the opening scene of episode 4 is really tense. And this is what I like about the show, is that when it's tense, it does the tension actually quite well. Like, I was literally like, I'm waiting for that moment to happen where it all goes wrong and they just like come face to face with the elephant in the room, as it were. But yeah, I thought that was really, really tense, because it's like, you know that they both know what's going on and you're just waiting for that moment to happen. But yeah, I already mentioned Mephisto. I thought Sacha Baron Cohen was really good. Now, bearing in mind, I don't have any comic book knowledge of this particular character. I know who Mephisto is, but that's kind of it. I don't have any other background knowledge of him. So I can only base it off what I've seen from this show. But I thought Sacha Baron Cohen was really good. He came off as like this really charming and charismatic character, but at the same time, you could tell there was something sinister going on behind the words that he was saying. You know, you could tell there was something manipulative and mischievous going on behind the words that he was talking about. And especially near the end, there's something else that happens where he starts talking to this person quite condescendingly. So it almost seems like he's desperate to make these deals with people, but wants to appear as friendly at the same time, so that his like clients, as he calls them, let's call them victims. Let's just call them victims. You know, get convinced to make a deal with him. But I thought he was really good in this. I really, really liked his portrayal of this character. And then lastly, we're going to talk about Riri. So, before I get into Riri's character, I am going to mention that this half of the series introduces magic into this particular show. So obviously we know about Doctor Strange, we know that magic, parallel worlds, all that kind of stuff, multiverses, we know that exists. I think what's interesting here is that we're introduced to two characters called Madeline and Zelma, who are witches. They practice witchcraft and magic, and they basically show Riri what's going on, and Riri looks really stunned, and her mum by this point, who knows what the full situation is. They look quite shocked, and you know, one of them just goes, "What? Why are you so surprised? Do you not know about Doctor Strange? Like, Doctor Strange by this point has already existed for a while." I think what's interesting, because I thought that was weird at first, but I think what's interesting is that this show's set in Chicago, where pretty much most of the MCU films have taken place in New York or like Manhattan. Admittedly, I don't know the distance between the two states, so I do apologise. But my thinking was that, okay, maybe they actually don't know about this stuff because they're paying attention to their own lives and they're maybe like a state or two away from what's going on. So maybe it's just not in their vicinity. They just don't know about it. Because I thought that was weird, like, how do you not know about Doctor Strange and some of these other characters? But I think that kind of makes sense at the same time. But again, if I'm wrong, and maybe the distance is a bit shorter, then let me know, because I don't know the actual distance between those states. But yes, Magik is now in Ironheart. So, I mentioned earlier that in Riri and Ezekiel's first fight, Ezekiel did destroy Riri's iron suit, which means she's got to make a new one. She decides to fuse magic with science, because she's realised that the piece of cloak that she got from episode 3 from Parker can't be destroyed because it's from another dimension that even Madeline and Zelma don't recognise. So she decides to create this iron suit that will fuse magic and science together. I will say there was a problem though with that, because she goes to test it and discovers that while they are both infused together, it can't also hold Natalie, which is the AI created after her passed away best friend. So it gets rid of her. She is gone by episode 6. Which was quite surprising. So it then means that she now has to fight Parker without Natalie's help. But I will say, there is the beginning of episode 5, the opening scene is really interesting, because we do get shown that Riri can hold her own in a fight. The opening scene in episode 5 in the restaurant is really well done. It does seem like it's inspired by Iron Man 3, where Tony Stark has to have that fight in the bar and he doesn't have his iron suit or anything like that. This kind of feels like that kind of thing. I guess they wanted to reflect that in a way, because Ironheart, Iron Man, I guess they wanted to do the same thing. But I think it really works because we haven't really been shown that she can do that yet. So she relies so much on this suit that it's like, okay, well, you know, in Tony Stark's words, if you're nothing without your suit, then you don't deserve it. So I think it was interesting to see that, and I actually really enjoyed it. I think episode 5 is probably my favourite one and the best one, because it not only showed that, but it also showed her actually putting her suit together. It was time-lapsed, but I thought that was quite cool. Like, it still had that montage of her and her family coming together to create this new suit. Okay, so I mentioned about the suit, the new suit. The new design was really cool, actually. The red and black suit. I think that's really, really cool. Let's talk about my problem with this, and it kind of goes into an issue that I mentioned in my review for episode 1 to 3, where I said that Disney shows don't really know how to do a series past 6 episodes, and the pacing suffers for it. There are moments that should stick that don't, and situations that happen get resolved really quickly when they should just let it settle for a bit longer, maybe like an episode or 2 longer. And this ending is a big example of that. Okay, let's talk about the ending, because I hated the ending. I really hated the ending. So the final fight between Parker and Riri, way too short. It's probably about, a few minutes long. The actual fight itself was probably about 45 seconds long. Like, not very long. A bit like, okay, I thought this was going to be a bigger showdown than it actually was. And then Riri goes to leave the building that she's in, where she fought Parker, and finds Mephisto sitting in the same chair that he was when he made a deal with Parker. And he basically says, like, you know, you now have the cloak, you know, Parker's not really much used to me anymore, but I've been watching you. I know that you're still hurting because of Natalie, and you're still grieving because of that. You know, I know what you're going to ask for. Let's make a deal. It then cuts to some time later And here's what I thought was going to happen. I thought, in terms of making the iron suit, Parker, basically the gang find out that Parker killed the person who Riri was replacing. They find out that he killed him. And Parker doesn't like that, but I like the members are like, well, we didn't join this gang to hurt people, so we're not interested in this. We don't like that you did that. He tells them to leave, and I thought the rest of the gang were going to go to Riri and her family and help finish up the suit, which doesn't happen, annoyingly. But what I thought was going to happen with Mephisto and Riri is that I thought Riri was not going to take the deal, because she was going to be like, no, I need to move on. I need to properly grieve over my friend. I can't keep holding on to this. Because this is what she's been holding on to the entire time, is she, and I mentioned this in the previous review video where I said she is still holding on to her best friend. She can't seem to move on and let it go. And she hasn't even given herself time to actually grieve, which she should do. So I thought that she was going to say that and not take the deal. Or I thought she was going to take the deal, but it was going to be for Parker. And she was going to say, okay, please undo the damage you did to Parker and let him go. I thought that's what she was going to do, because it would have shown her growing as a character. Because this entire time, throughout this show, she's proven over and over again that she is only looking out for herself. She's only looking out for herself. So everything she's doing is for herself only. And that's it. So if she ended up making a deal that let Parker go, she was being selfless. She was doing that for someone else and not her. But that doesn't happen. No, what happens instead is she makes the deal to bring Natalie back. As in, not the AI, but actually resurrecting her best friend back. Now, on one side, I get it. On an emotional side, I get it. But on a character growth side, we are back to square one that we were in the first episode. Riri has not grown as a character. She is still doing things for herself. She is still looking out only for herself, and she is still being selfish. And I know that's a strong word to use for this decision, because again, I do understand it. I'm sure if I was in the same situation, I would do the same thing. But this is a fictional show where, especially if it's only 6 episodes long, there needs to be some character development somewhere, some character growth somewhere. And this is, I think, another thing I was saying with my last Ironheart review video, is that because the pacing is so quick, because things have to be rushed through to get the story complete in 6 episodes, these kind of things don't really happen, because they don't have time to happen. They don't have time to, characters don't get time to grow. Character development doesn't get to happen. And like I said earlier as well, certain moments don't stick. So yeah, I wasn't very happy with the ending at all. I will say though that the mid-credits scene does leave it off to a cliffhanger. So the mid-credits scene is Parker goes into the magic shop that Madeline and Zelma own, and he basically says I need some pretty heavy magic to help me. Now my theory is that he wants to, because he still has the scars and the red veiny scars all over his face and neck. My theory is that he wants to get magic to help lift that curse and to help him. Which again, I wish Riri had wished for that, but okay, never mind. But what I'm hoping, because they've left it off on a cliffhanger, I am hoping there's a season 2. Because while I hated the ending, I have overall enjoyed this show. I've actually had a lot of fun with it. I think it's nice to have, I mentioned this in the last review video as well, it's nice to have a bit of a calmer series with not as big as stakes compared to something that's world ending. Avengers, Fantastic Four, that kind of thing. It's nice to have something that has smaller stakes to it. But yeah, I do think there needs to be a season 2. And I do hope there's a season 2. And maybe they have more episodes in it than just 6. they use that to then flesh out the characters more and flesh out the character development more and make the pacing less uneven. But yeah, this was my review of Marvel's Ironheart. A bit messy at the end, but I actually overall really enjoyed this. I do hope there's a season 2 to help flesh out more characters, to help the pacing a bit better, to make the writing a bit more fleshed out as well. But yeah, I actually really enjoyed this. I think Marvel and even DC are doing really well at the moment. So maybe I said this with my Superman review, maybe I'm into superhero stuff again. Maybe I'm interested again. But I was Megan, this is Battle Royale with Cheese. See you soon.